Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we are looking at some player props with just one game in the slate here on Thursday night. I guess schedule makers really wanted us to watch Eagles and Commanders in Thursday night football. So we'll give that a look-see as well, in addition to this Jazz and Mavs game that we have on Thursday. Definitely want to subscribe to that page, give that video a like, and continue to follow along. We also have best bets up in a separate episode. Going to be taking a look at some futures looks here as well, so that we can get some value as we are roughly 12, 13 games into the season for these teams. Might be able to restructure things here with these expectations that we have for futures bets. So I want to take a look at a couple of those. Quick reminder as well that we are, one last reminder I will say, as we're closing this opportunity pretty soon in partnership with BetMGM. If you don't yet have an account, we are offering you the ability to get $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet does not cash. So use the code TheLines YT50 when you're signing up for that BetMGM account. You also get $50 in bonus bets regardless of how your first bet cashes. So a nice little come up there for you on your first bet with MGM for new users. Nate, let's go ahead and jump right into your first pick for this Mavs and Jazz game.
Yeah, I'll go Derek Lively over 18.5 points, rebounds, assists, which the best price is at MGM. It's minus 115. It's only one more assist than I believe his points and rebounds total. And they're kind of sleeping on the fact that he's really improved as a playmaker since the playoffs when he got increased touches. He actually has the fourth most potential assists per game on the team, which isn't a huge number considering nobody else really gets to play make other than Kairuka, but it's 3.5 per game. And so he has double-digit assists, I believe, in 4 straight, including, he had 14, 4, and 2 against the Jazz in 26 minutes the last time out. Then missed some time with the shoulder, but he's gotten over this number, actually averaged 21 points, rebounds a game in his last 2. So not even adding the assists, he's getting over this number. And that matchup against the Jazz, he had 4 rebounds on 14 rebound chances, which is just screams regression if you're looking at these types of things. Like, he's not a guy who misses his rebound chances too often. Daniel Gafford also 21 rebound chances in that game. That just indicates how bad the Jazz are. The reason, I think we're both looking at under in this game based on the fact that we're both taking rebound-oriented props here. And Lively had 14 rebounds against this bad Jazz team in just 16 minutes per game in March when he played there against them. So this season, fourth most potential assist, most rebound chances per game on the team, 15 a game. So that 14 is no outlier. And it's a Jazz team that's without Walker Kessler, so they're weaker down low, and they already give up the most overall points to centers as interpreted by FanDuel points. Second most points, third most rebounds, sixth most assists to centers. So definitely like Lively to pile up some stats in what should be a choppy game that the Mavs kind of dominate.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the Jazz hanging around, as Teddy KGB would say, a little bit in this one early, and then this just gets blown out of proportion by the time that guys like Lively are in there to give the effort. I really like Lively's contributions tonight. Like, I am expecting some pretty big things from him as long as he plays the requisite 22, 23 minutes. I think his energy is going to be palpable. It's going to be something that they've missed, to be honest. I think we're sleeping on the impact of Lively on this team. At least if you're someone who's surprised that the Mavs are a little bit shaky to start the season, shakier than the Western Conference champions probably should be. I think Lively's injury it has been a big impact, basically. There's nobody else that does what he does. Gafford does it to a degree, but Lively does it on steroids with his ability to play a lot more versatility than Gafford. And that's huge. And PJ Washington, versatile player, but still just doesn't bring anything outside of rebounding and threes. It's just that simple. It's all he does. He does it well, but it's all he does.
And he's out tonight.
Actually not a bad passer. And he's out tonight as well. Yeah. So, and I love Lively's energy. So I just love Lively, man. I guess that's what I'm saying. Let me get into my first play here for this game as well, Nate, and talk about a little SGP, or not even an SGP. I'm sorry. This one, I actually just like John Collins. I was ready to go talk about the SGP I put in the other video, which is Luka with his assists and adding that. So just take a look at that one. But John Collins, 9.5 boards. Love John Collins, man. I mean, talk about a guy that I've sort of done a complete 180 from the moments that he was in Atlanta to the moments he got to Utah. We called him soft. We called him, not a good defender. We called him a liability as a corner 3 shooter at times on the Hawks. just could not be further from the truth. He's an effort guy on the Jazz and a rebound guy, and he's playing, as you mentioned, without blocker Kessler, who probably doesn't deserve that name anymore. But their starting center's out, and John Collins is moving from the backup unit into the starting unit. And honestly, I've loved him in the starting unit, and that's why I have such high praise for him this season, is because he hasn't complained about it at all. He's just come into the second unit and been like, okay, cool, it's me and Jordan Clarkson. I'm happy to take 12 to 13 shots a game. But the rebounding has also been what's impressed me the most, and that's been the case since he's gotten to Utah, where he's at about 8 rebounds per game, a couple more than what he was averaging when he played alongside Trey and Clint Capella and Okongwu, etc. Didn't have the opportunity to get that. But with him out now, he's starting, and he's only started one other game this season. That was against Phoenix. He had 34 minutes in an 8-point loss against Phoenix, so it does make me think, even if this game gets to double digits by like third, fourth quarter, maybe we see some Johnny Juzang, I guess, but we're still going to see plenty of John Collins as long as this thing is within 10 to 15 points. He had 18 rep chances in that last game to en route to 10 rebounds. And at 9.5, I still think this is a good over. 10.5 is where I start to get scared of it. But he's only gone over in 4 of 10. But in the 4 that he's gone over, he played at least 28 minutes in all those games. So I think you project him for another 32 to 34 tonight in a game where he's going to be the best option at center and power forward and forward, just the best rebounder for this team in those positions. And they're going to be going up against the bigs, right? We know Gafford and Lively going to be giving some problems to guys like Collins, but I still like he and Lowry to actually be able to do what they need to do. I actually like Lowry rebounds as well, to be honest, in a game that I think will be a little bit more up and down for the Jazz. So the Mavs, not a good rebounding team right now. 4th worst rebound percentage in the league. They are giving up the 5th most rebounds per game as well to their opponent. So, this is a good spot for Collins with an uptick in usage to do something he's done all 4 times. He plays at least 28 minutes.
Yeah, I was looking at him as far as the whole PRA bundle too. Thought it was a little high, but I mean he's picking up a lot of the slack with Lauri Markkanen just not healthy. So I think it's a good look to target him. If the Jazz are close in this game, it's going to be because of his energy and what he has to do against those timeshare centers that the Mavs are going to throw out there. But yeah, once again, let's look at some futures. Only one game to choose from here. And I got a special on DraftKings. It's minus 400, but you get the entire field for MVP against 5 guys, only 2 of which I think have a legitimate shot to win MVP. That is Tatum and Anthony Edwards. And then they throw in LeBron, Sabonis, and Jimmy Butler. Sabonis, maybe. He got 1 vote from that one guy who voted him for everything. But I don't think that he has a legitimate shot. I think Anthony Edwards, a little too inconsistent, taking so many threes. The Wolves have not hit their stride by any means. I don't think he's old. He's mature enough at this point to be consistent to win. I mean, what we saw in the playoffs, to win against big time matchups against big time teams that are going to key in on him. So no, I don't think so. So you're really betting for 1-4 odds against Jason Tatum. So I think you can put 4 units on that and expect to get 1 back at the end of the year, barring a certain scenario, which is like Jaylen Brown gets injured for a long time, or the Celtics get to 70 wins, but they already have 3 losses, right? Still have to play the Cavs 3 times. They could get them. And I mean, they blipped against the Hawks without Trae Young. Like they're not going to be a machine with the 3-point variance that comes into play when the Celtics play, right? I mean, they're attempt a record number of threes. And I mean, the problem is bigger. It's just the balance, right? Jaylen Brown outplays Tatum. It seems like every other game. Like, I don't know how you can see that as a voter. And unless you're like being bullied by Joe Mazzulla's death stares into being like, we need a big time award. And Tatum, throwing out there like, I can't believe I'm not an MVP candidate, blah, blah, blah. It's because you have the best starting 5 in the league and you play with somebody who's on your level at every point. Whereas, the guys you get that I would expect to win MVP, I don't know which one of these 3, but Jokic, SGA, and Luka. I mean, they are just the sun that their teams revolve around. Anthony Davis also has an early candidacy here. That's why LeBron doesn't really have any shot unless AD gets injured, and then the Lakers will just be doo-doo. You also get guys like Steph and Donovan Mitchell who are off to great starts with their team. We'll see if the Cavs can sustain that. But I really just think it's those 3 guys who finished top 3 last year, right? And Giannis is in there, although the Bucks are terrible. But Jokic and Luka and SGA, like I can't really see somebody other than that winning it, that it's worth for me eating the juice.
Yeah, I don't think Tatum can win this right now. Like it's really so situational. Who are you giving credit to when you watch these games is what it comes down to. Like Tatum's played otherworldly for a number of games this year, but Jaylen Brown's there. LeBron James, straight triple doubles for a 40-year-old man. Nate, my ankle hurt when I walked up the stairs earlier today. So like, it's insane. But you've got AD taking away some of the credit for LeBron, right? You've got plenty of other guys. And something wrong with everything you said. Like SGA is on a team that is so dependent on the defense that they have, and the sort of camaraderie and the strength in numbers that even if he is the best player taking the most shots on that team, I mean, J-Dub outplayed him on offense last night, right? How often is that guy? There's so many good secondary players on these teams now, especially because teams stop trying to get the big three. They got the big two and they fill it out with good players, but that does eat into that sort of credit that you get for winning, for leading your team to victory. I cannot believe Jimmy Butler is listed. I cannot think of a player less deserving of most valuable than anyone else right now who would even be talked about in this echelon, because he is just, the effort is not there. I'm with you that like everybody who's actually available, like Steph was like 95-1 as recently as like a week ago. That's absolutely bonkers. So, I mean, I honestly just like all the guys you said enough. And I think you get plus juice enough on the likes of, well, at least on the likes of Steph, Donnie Mitchell. Both of those are great dark horse looks. I think the Cavs are just a lock essentially for that central division at this point. That's going to help a lot too if they do hang with the Celtics and get the 2 seed. It's a really, really exciting MVP race for the first time in like 5 years, Nate. So I'm pretty, other than the Jokic Embiid, which just, sort of dissipated at the end, but this is going to be a really, really good one. So I'm glad you went there. I'm going to go to the most obscure, awful award that still seems like it's a lock for a guy like Jalen Johnson. That's most improved player of the year. A lot of media and pundits do not like this award because it is so freaking subjective. What are we comparing him to? It's literally a relative award. He's improved compared to what? To what he was last year. The percentage of his improvement was greater than the other guy. I don't know, but I know that they're just at least going to look at the stats from last season and the impact that a guy has on a team from last season compared to this season, and they're going to take that into consideration. And the reason I like the JJ, in addition to just the fact that he was ready for a breakout last year and should get that opportunity for reasons I'll explain in a minute, I also just like the fact that I think the Hawks are going to be better than we all thought, and he's going to get a lot of that credit. Trey's going to get some credit, but he's been there the whole time. JJ's been there for a year or two, really only 1 year as a guy that we've even heard of. And then after that, we finally have defense around it. We've got Daniels and we've got Risache, and we just saw it without Trey work against the Celtics, right? Who, say what you want, they might have been taken unawares because Trey was out. But regardless, this team looked really good with Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels at the helm of things. And JJ is going to get so much of that credit for the improvement in the team. I think that will contribute to his ability to get into the award. Right now, we're talking about 3 more points per game from 16 to 19, a board and a half or so from 8.5 to 10 boards per game. And the assists really stand out at almost 2 more per game this season. And granted, Trey's missed a few games, but he only has like half an assist more per game this year with Trey off the floor than with Trey on the floor. So he's capable of being that facilitator because Trey's getting double teamed. And this is like the Draymond Green to Steph Curry for all those years in Golden State, where fine, double Trey 35 feet from the basket and force the ball out of his hands. Give it to Jalen Johnson in a 4-on-3, running full head of steam to the basket with the option to pass or shoot or dunk. Great. That's just only going to keep sharpening his skills and his mentals as well, and his ability to understand the game. So I love his ability to keep getting better with the time that he's getting, up at about 36 minutes a game. The other contenders for this award that you would consider, J-Dub on the Thunder, similar concept there. He already got the credit of being a 21 points a game kind of guy alongside SGA. He's been the number 2. Jalen Johnson's sort of stepping up as the number 2, right? No more DeJounte Murray. Bogey's not even healthy. Clint Capella is aging and just relies on Trey for slam. So it's like, this is his running mate now, is Jalen Johnson. This is the VP of this offense and this defense as well. So I just love his impact way more than J-Dub. LaMelo Ball, it's not an improvement to go from not playing to being the only player on your team. He's third in these odds. So it's really just as much about the field just not being legit. Like Cade Cunningham was hurt last year. How do you give him an improvement award? Being on the floor is an improvement. Doesn't mean you should get the award for playing better when you just didn't play last year. And that's the case with all these runner-ups. Grady Dick, same concept. Like, did he improve or did he just play in the G League last year? Like he's plus 1,400. And I would take he's slightly better, 2-1 over. It's twice the odds that you get for taking Jalen Johnson. I think Jalen Johnson has more than twice of a better shot than winning this award than Grady Dick. So these odds are a little bit janky to me. And I think Jalen Johnson is damn near a lock for this one, to be honest.
Yeah, he was on his way to maybe winning it last year when he got injured. So, I mean, and then he just continues to get better. So, I mean, that's in voters' minds that he was definitely up there. The preseason favorite was actually Wemby. And I mean, I don't think you give the defensive player of the year this award at the same time, especially when he's gotten worse on offense thus far.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't see a lot of I mean, everybody's a candidate when you look at the odds boards because you can go any direction with this. But I think if you're interpreting it as you see with like these odds leaps with people who are efficient, not turnover machines like Cade Cunningham, then Jalen Johnson should be right at the top of the list at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. And it's a bad moment in time to say that Wemby's been bad on offense this year because he dropped a 50-burger last night and created history for that Spurs team. I'm just saying it's funny. I have to mention it because it's about 12 hours later since he did it.
Yeah,
but you're completely right. Like
his only good offensive games have been against the Jazz and Wizards.
Completely agree. There's no question that for Wemby right now, like they're bumping up his stuff way too much. You just hit the unders on his PRA consistently. They've had it priced at about 41 and a half PRA for Wemby. He's averaging like 32. Yeah. Like that doesn't make any sense. They're giving you the Wemby premium, and you really got to pay it if you want to take overs on Wemby stuff right now. So keep that in mind. But that's all the time we have for you on this little baby slate. Actually really excited that we got to go over some of these futures. I really like a couple of these futures plays we put out in best bets and these play a prop video that we have here today. So continue to follow along, subscribe to that page. We're coming back with that Friday slate for you guys tomorrow. So until we see you then, happy betting.